Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to another road trip.
Yeah.
Welcome to On the Road with Plus Two Comedy.
On the road again. Ain't it great to be on the road again?
Moving right along in search of good times and good news.
All great songs. All great songs.
Send someone to fetch us. We're near Saskatchewan.
So we are currently headed back from an unknown location because those are going to be future Stay Doomed Adventure episodes, and we don't want to tell you yet.
Oh, okay.
We want to leave you in suspense.
I didn't know I didn't know we weren't telling you.
Yeah.
Hence me saying Saskatchewan. Oh well.
So, few things. One, this is an On the Road with Plus Two Comedy, but this is the first time we're using the new microphones.
Yeah, we're hoping they work a little better
Yeah.
than my iPad.
Yes, that we used to just do it on an iPad or a phone. These are nicer microphones that hopefully are a bit better. They're shotgun, so you got to kind of like point them at your mouth. But I am behind the wheel as we record this, so if I suddenly start swearing, someone in front of me was doing something stupid.
I imagine you'll edit that out.
It depends. It could be funny. As someone who's done many on the roads with Plus Two Comedy, like, a lot of them existed before the Stay Doomed version of the podcast. There are times where cutting out the swearing or the GPS interrupting was needed. There's other times where it just added to the fun of this style of format of the show. And for this episode on the road, we're going to do an actual full Stay Doomed episode, but rather than, we're actually going to do the opposite of Stay Doomed. Because one thing that I think we've been meaning to discuss is the not doomed, but the shows that we can't believe weren't doomed. There was a lot of things on the radar that was like, that's a future Stay Doomed.
Yes.
And then somehow they got 2 seasons. There's a few things that we were like planning on doing. And then it was like, wait a minute, this actually ran more than 1 season. So I thought we would spend some time discussing the not doomed and discussing some shows that we thought were going to be doomed or thought were doomed, why we thought they were doomed, and how they ended up not being doomed.
I think there are shows that also retroactively people treat as though they should have been doomed after 1 season. Mm-hmm. They were successful when they first ran, but people are saying, oh, they should never have gotten a 2nd season because later seasons were not as good. Mm-hmm. Things like Heroes, which
yes.
There was no way they could have planned on the writer's strike.
Right.
So, like, Heroes without the writer's strike might have been really good in later seasons.
Yeah, like, if you watch season 1 of Heroes, there's nothing in it that sends up the alarm bells of, this isn't going to get a season 2. Because it's great.
Yeah, like, one of the other ones that comes to mind would be Riverdale.
Yes.
There's our 1 per episode.
Riverdale had a very strong first season. There's also, it's very hard to write something off as a future Stay Doomed when it starts on the CW. Like, anything that kind of started on the CW or the WB, like, usually got some room to breathe.
For sure.
So, I would say that, like, it's very rare. The only show that I could think of that ran 1 season on UPN or those, like, stack of stations is The Ringer.
Yes, with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar had, like, it was like her post-Buffy show that only ran 1 season. I also believe, speaking of Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think she had a show with the late, great Robin Williams called, like, Happy Thoughts that ran 1 season on, like, ABC.
I believe it was called The Crazy Ones.
The Crazy Ones.
And it was like a family sitcom. I believe she was his daughter.
Yes, that sounds about right. But that leads me to my first, I thought this was doomed, but I believe it ran 2 seasons. And that's Better Off Ted.
I think every time Better Off Ted comes up, we are astonished it ran multiple seasons.
Yeah, I watched 1 episode of it and I was like, this is brilliant, and getting canceled. This is before the podcast was running, because it was such like a weird show. Like, it was a show about, I believe, like, just trying to sell products. And like, they had this very itchy fabric that they're like, well, we can't use this to make clothing, so we're going to use it to make office chairs. And it just drove people insane. Someone gets like cryogenically frozen in that show. It's like a very out there show for network television. And it was very funny. I liked it. But like, it definitely didn't seem like something that would run on network television, but it did run 2 seasons.
Yeah, I always conflate it with another show that is similar as far as being a little weird for network. I am always astonished Pushing Daisies got 2 seasons.
Did that only get 2 seasons?
It did only get 2 seasons. But that seemed like something that would just be doomed.
Yeah, it was the guy, he could, if he touched you, he could bring you back to life until he touched you again?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember this.
Because one of the, he, brings his love interest back to life. And then he can never touch the love of his life again.
Right, yes, I do remember this. That is a very weird show. That reads more like a show I would watch when, like, I got home from school, because it has, like, a sci-fi element for it. Like, that reads like a Small Wonder, or I guess more like an 80s sitcom. Small Wonders had a robot in it. There's the one show where the girl put her fingers together and froze time. It sounds like one of those.
Or like a late TGIF with like Teen Angel and You Wish.
Yeah, those are, yeah, exactly.
I've heard nothing but good things, mind you, about Pushing Daisies. Because it ran 2 seasons, I have seen actually very little of it.
Yeah, same. It's hard to find the time to enjoy a 2-season wonder when we're doing this show. Another big one that, like, it's the first show I thought of when it comes to, like, shows I predicted. Because there's a couple of things I've said on this show that I was like, oh, that's 1 season for sure, that ended up not being. So I need to bring those up. One being Deal or No Deal Island.
We actually did a show about how doomed it was.
Yes, the Stay Doomsday Clock is what we called it. And I think we were like, this should be canceled, but it's going to get a 2nd season because it's stupid easy to make. But it's a terrible show. But one thing I know I said on the record, on the show, was going to run only 1 season, and I believe we'll be entering maybe its 5th season soon, is Holy Moly.
I think for similar reasons. I think it is stupid cheap to make. It's filler summer content, which is still a thing on network TV.
Yes, so ABC does the Summer of Games every year, where it's just like, we know that in the summer you're doing other things, especially like on the weekend. So here's a bunch of like junk food, put it on in the background shows. So they brought back like Press Your Luck. I think they brought back Password, or maybe even like the Match Game recently. And one of them was Holy Moly. And basically Holy Moly is Wipeout interrupted by a miniature golf. And I was like, this is dumb. It's dumb and repetitive in a bad way. Like, at Wipeout, like, the course always changes just enough to be like, all right, this is a different thing. Holy Moly was the same holes, And, like, everything kind of took too long, in my opinion. And I remember saying in our Discord, this is 100% a Stay Doomed. And not only was it not, but Season 3 has the Muppets in it.
I was going to bring up the Muppets, and that they appeared in it, and therefore they have never done anything wrong in their life. I believe Muppets Tonight is one I always think of, like, it's what we've been calling a double doomed. It ran one season on ABC and then one season on the Disney Channel.
Mm.
And we have gone back and forth over whether that counts for the show. And I think at one point we discussed doing them as kind of like separate entities, because I'm, looking for any reason to do the Muppets.
Yeah, I know there was, back when we were in the, like, early days of Stay Doomed and we were doing the themed months, there was talk of doing 2 episodes of Muppets Tonight, the season on ABC and the season on the Disney Channel, and then doing 2 episodes on Erie, Indiana. Because in Erie, Indiana ran one season, and then there's, like, Erie...
There's a lane closure ahead.
There's, like, Erie, Indiana, like, gets weirder, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's, like, it's different kids, but, like, same vibe. So I know that was something we discussed for a bit.
I always think of the shows that have source material that's pretty finite.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of these shows that are based on a book, and the first season is the book, and then after that is question mark. So the 2 that come to mind are Under the Dome.
Oh, yeah.
Which ran 3 seasons, and 13 Reasons Why. And 13 Reasons Why is also one of those ones that pretty much everyone says that the show absolutely tanks after the first season. And I don't love that franchise at all.
Right.
But it's especially egregious when they kept trying to get more and more out of what was a pretty closed-ended story.
It's one of those things where anything that's a limited series can become more if it makes enough money. And 13 Reasons Why, for some reason, did very well on Netflix.
It was based on a very popular young adult book.
Right. But, like, still, I'm surprised to hear that it did so well that they were like, let's stretch it out. Let's come up with some more reasons.
Yeah, I'm not sure what drove someone to give this multiple seasons, especially because it's one of those shows that was incredibly controversial when it was released. I think there's an element of the Streisand effect of there was a scene that I believe was cut in later, Netflix had to re-upload it because there is a scene that was cut from broadcast later.
Yes, it was too instructional on self-harm.
Yeah, I mean, the themes of this were very, it was a very dark, difficult show, and a lot of mental health advocates did not like it because it essentially, 1, it had essentially a tutorial, and 2, it's such a bizarre revenge fantasy.
Yeah, because the idea is, like, now that I'm gone, everyone's going to know why they're to blame. So kind of like the person who commits the act does end up getting everything they want. So, like, that's a weird message.
The whole thing is, when I'm gone, you'll be sorry, and everyone is.
Yeah, that's pretty uncool. I know one thing that was listed as a show we were going to do for a while, and then I think on 2 occasions we were like, it's finally time to do this, just to learn it ran 2 seasons, is The Swan.
Right, I think we've repeatedly considered doing The Swan.
Yeah, so if you don't know what The Swan is, they took like 10 or 12 ugly ducklings, air quotes, and gave them extreme makeovers. We're talking plastic surgery and, transforming them into the most beautiful version of themselves possible. They then competed in a beauty contest, and the winner was named the Swan. But, like, the gimmick of it was they were, like, unable to use mirrors or see anything of what they looked like into the final reveal. If I remember correctly, one contestant was disqualified for using a metal spoon to try to look at her face. And this, to me, the Swan, like, the show is clearly garbage.
Yeah.
Like, what I just described to you is clearly garbage. Especially for an hour reality show. Like, I believe this ran an hour, not a half hour.
I believe you're right.
It is, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant ideas to try to trick people into watching what's ever after it.
Right.
Because if you want to see the Swan, you kind of just want to see the part where they see their face.
Right.
You don't need to see, like, the surgery part. So you tune in at, 8:50, watch that part, and then, hey, what's next on Fox? We'll just keep going. The fact that they were like, let's do this trick again, is insanity to me. Like, once you've done it, like, where do you go from there?
I mean, I've been working on the Stay Doomed book, and there's an entire chapter on the premise of the show is unrepeatable. And the Swan is very much, the premise of the show is unrepeatable, but we're gonna try.
Also, the girl who won the Swan eventually appears on Battle of the Reality Show Network Stars, which was also on the schedule until we found out we didn't have all the episodes.
Right.
And she's one of the contestants, and she now looks more like she did at the start of the Swan than at the end of the Swan. Because they didn't teach her how to do anything. Like, when she wins the Swan, like, her hair is done a very certain way to make it, like, curly. And, like, she, had, like, liposuction done and things like that. After the show ended, no one taught her how to care for her hair that way, or, like, the diet needed to maintain that body.
And this is something that is invisible to a lot of guys, how difficult that kind of makeup application is if that's not something you're used to doing. Exactly. That would have been what's called, like, full glam. Mm-hmm. And you're not wearing full glam day to day, 99% of people. Even people who are very enthusiastic about makeup are often not wearing full glam every single day.
Yeah, so, like, on top of everything, like, it clearly doesn't work. Like, if everyone who did The Biggest Loser gained all the weight back, like, you wouldn't have another season. But there's a second season of The Swan.
Also, a lot of them have fillers. Fillers will settle and eventually they'll migrate, or I believe they do eventually dissolve, or you can have them dissolved.
Exactly. And, like, I just can't... It's weird that the show existed at all, but it's like a Fox reality publicity stunt. Oh my god, I can't believe we're doing this thing. The idea that there was demand for more, I just find unbelievable. And you brought up something that inspired some other thoughts. The idea of the unrepeatable premise.
Right.
There's quite a few shows that, in my opinion, had an unrepeatable premise, yet got multiple seasons.
Yeah, because when I say the unrepeatable premise, I think of, like, I Want to Marry Harry, Superstar USA, a lot of the reality shows we did very, very early on in Stay Doomed.
Yes. And yet, I believe there are 3 seasons of Joe Millionaire?
Yes, I believe one of them is considerably later and is a revival, essentially.
Yes, because I watched Joe Millionaire when it aired, because I was a reality show junkie at that age. And this was, like, the first time where it was like, ooh, like, it's a dating show with a twist. He's just some guy. Is his personality, good enough, or, are they only interested in the money? And the show was bad. But it ends with them staying together. That's like how the show ends. And then they quickly break up off air.
Right.
So the idea of doing another Joe Millionaire is difficult because now contestants are aware of Joe Millionaire. So Joe Millionaire Season 2 is like the European expedition.
So very I Want to Marry Harry coded.
Yes, and it was like, all right, so this time we have this guy who's pretended to be a millionaire. We've got all these girls from another country that are unfamiliar with Joe Millionaire. And we also got the biggest gold diggers because we want that ending. We want the ending of the girl going, ew, you're not rich? And you can see that from episode 1 that that's the plan.
It reminds me a little bit of Rock of Love.
Yeah.
Rock of Love. Dating reality shows should probably not repeat with the same Bachelor/Bachelorette subsequent seasons unless it's, well removed. I could see someone from season, 3 of The Bachelor gets divorced 10 years down the line and now they're back looking for love. But Flavor of Love, Rock of Love, I Love New York, all of them immediately had to do it again.
What you say that celebrity dating shows should not have an immediate second season. I could think of 2 that didn't. Every other one did. Like, more often than not, there was a season 2.
They shouldn't have. They did, but they shouldn't have.
Because the only one that I could think of that actually ran one season, well, I guess 3, because I forgot about Daisy, because we did it on the show, was The Entertainer's Basement Affair, and the forgotten celeb-reality dating show, Kept.
Yeah, Frank the Entertainer and A Basement Affair probably would have gotten a season 2 had it not been for essentially 51 Minds not being able to run shows anymore and the Megan Wants a Millionaire controversy, ultimately leading to the end of Celeb-reality. Controversy, the murder, leading to the end of Celeb-reality pretty directly. But what was going back to Joe Millionaire was Rock of Love season 2 was derided as being fairly tame. And everyone was here for Brett and people were bored by it. And Rock of Love Bus goes very hard in the other direction of everyone's a little bit of a train wreck.
Everyone's a monster in that one. Which Rock of Love Bus only did run one season. We didn't do it yet, have we?
We have not done Rock of Love Bus as a season because it's arguable whether that's season 3 of Rock of Love or season 1 of Rock of Love Bus.
Yeah, but we make the rules. It's our show.
I mean, you are not going to get an argument from me on that.
Don't threaten you with a good time?
Don't threaten me with a good time. I love these shows. I'm sorry that I love these shows, but I do.
So I had another unrepeatable premise that I believe now has run 4 seasons, which is The Joe Smo Show. The Joe Smo Show is a reality show where one person is the only real contestant. Everyone else is an actor and everything is scripted.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in the first season, there were 2 real people.
I will correct you. The first one, it was just the Joe Smo. And, it was on Spike TV, and it was Spike TV's kind of attempt of making their own star. Because, I think the guy's name was Matt. After the Joe Smo show aired, they had him host 100 things. To just kind of,
They were trying to make Matt happen.
They were trying to make Matt happen. And it was a Big Brother-esque show. But they were in a mansion, but they voted each other out. And what's her name from SNL?
Kristen Wiig is an unknown at this point, and she's on the show.
Yeah, Kristen Wiig is one of the fake contestants. Then, when they do season 2, it's a dating show. And there's two Schmoes. There's Joe and Jane Schmo.
But Jane figures it out.
Yes.
And then Jane, instead of it ruining the premise, they just invite Jane in.
Yes.
They just go, you figured it out. Let's keep going. You're in on it now.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I really wanted to. But what I find mostly insane about this is it's the same host. They use the same host for both shows. So, like, I get it, it's Spike TV. Maybe it wasn't that big of a, like, hit. And then season 3 is, like, years later, so people had forgotten about the Joe Smo show. This was also, there was a time where, like, calling a regular person a Joe was really common.
Yeah, Joe Average.
Well, Average Joe was a show. The Joe Smo show was a show. Pros versus Joes was also a show where it was like people just competing with professional athletes and getting their ass kicked.
Dodgeball, they were famously the Average Joes.
The Average Joes. Maybe, is this around Joe the Plumber? Maybe?
Not quite. Joe the Plumber is a few years on.
Politics is always a few years behind when it comes to trends, so that makes sense. So yeah, completely unrepeatable premise, and yet continues to be repeated.
I was thinking about the unrepeatable premise. The other thing that was really big in the 2000s into the 2010s is the big drama that hinged on a central point or question that had the, well, then what?
Right.
Did you know Revolution ran 2 seasons?
Revolution. Was that the one where everybody lost power?
Yes.
I thought that was a 1-season wonder.
No, that ran 2 seasons. That was one that I really thought about for this particular prompt because it was in that line of like The Event and all of these other shows that really did hinge on one central question, what if bleh?
Yeah. Revolution seemed cool. It was like something that was on my radar because the idea was like, okay, yeah, just we've all lost power. What do we do? Seemed like a cool idea. I know I was big into Flash Forward, where everybody blacks out at the same time and sees a vision of themselves 6 months in the future.
Yeah.
That runs technically 1 season, but it's in 2 parts. And it almost felt like it fits in this category because the second half of season 1 felt like they were planning on being canceled because they realized they didn't have enough. So in the second half of season 1, suddenly everyone remembers a little bit more from their flash forward that they hadn't remembered in the earlier part because they realized they didn't know where they were going.
You know another show operates under the clear expectation they're going to be canceled after the front 13?
What's that?
Glee.
Oh, really?
If you watch the first 13 episodes of Glee, my dude, sorry, there is a truck that's just decided it wants to be in every lane.
Yeah, he's doing some Pac-Man driving, picking up all the dots in the center of the road.
But Glee, the first 13 episodes, essentially operate as a self-contained little show.
Okay.
That, you know, they were like, okay, we can, worst comes to worst, we can put this on DVD, and we'll sell some DVDs. So the front 13 operate as essentially their own miniseries, which it's a pretty successful little miniseries, and my humble opinion, Ryan Murphy never figures out how to go beyond 13 episodes super well, because that's why every season of American Horror Story falls apart.
Well, there was this trend that kind of got started, I want to say by American Horror Story, but like they would come up with this idea of writing this really good, tight first season, with the idea being season 2 is a completely different universe, a different cast. Like they did with True Detective and
Fargo,
where it was just like, let's make a really good season 1.
They sometimes call them anthology series or repertory series. I definitely think American Horror Story falls under repertory because they do have so much of the same cast.
Yes.
Back to back. Whereas a True Detective, and True Detective is one that, like, I Googled shows we can't believe got a second season, and True Detective, I'm dismissed it as that Monday clap. I dismissed it as that Monday morning quarterbacking of later seasons of True Detective weren't very good, so we don't think it should have gotten a second season. Based on the reception of the first season of True Detective, I'm not surprised it got a second season.
Yeah, like, True Detective was, like, kind of a monoculture moment for a bit, where everyone was suddenly reading, like, the story of the Yellow King.
I still say time is a flat circle a lot.
Is that from True Detective?
Yes.
I did not know that.
It might be from The Yellow King. It was popularized by True Detective, if nothing else. A show I did not watch, admittedly. But it was, that's how much of the monoculture it had entered, is time is a flat circle was very common in the parlance. Another one I'm thinking of with that front 13 back 9 thing is that Glee was a mid-season, not Glee, my bad. The other one I make fun of all the time, Riverdale, was a mid-season show. Riverdale ran from winter into spring. And it's a very tight 13-episode run with a central murder mystery, and it's very, very comparatively good. He's doing it again.
Yeah, like, I guess it's kind of easier to get a second season when you're a mid-season replacement, because they don't, like, there's still stuff to explore with you, because you didn't hang around for 24 episodes. Another one that I wanted to bring up as a thing that we've considered doing, I have two of them that from streaming.
I want to talk about Riverdale a little more, though.
I get.
Riverdale, I think, had they run 13-episode seasons with a tight core story every season, could have run its 5-6 seasons very well. One of the biggest criticisms of season 2 was that it was kind of floppy and had a lot of filler and a lot of unearned moments. And I think if they had done, like, the front 13 is one mystery and the back 9 is another, they would have been a little more successful doing, like, a 2A, 2B format. As you were saying, 2 that went to streaming.
Yes. I cannot believe there is 2 seasons of Real Rob. This was the Rob Schneider project that went to Netflix. And I only really know about it from Game Grumps. There's an episode, I think they're playing like Mario Maker, where Aaron watched all of Real Rob and just was like screaming like, it's such a waste of time. It's just about a guy who sucks. Like, he just sucks. And that's the show.
I genuinely wonder, when did Adam Sandler sign that big contract with Netflix?
Oh, yeah. Do you think that might be related?
Real Rob was on his right. Real Rob getting a season 2 was in his rider because Adam Sandler very famously looks out for his friends.
Well, I actually know Rob Schneider fully financed that show. So it was just kind of like cheap for Netflix to pick it up because it was done. Like, he finished the whole show and was like, do you want this? He's like, yeah, you're Rob Schneider. People will watch. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's 2 seasons of it. And I feel like it is most famous for the Game Grumps freakout because Rob Schneider then goes on Game Grumps.
Oh my God.
To discuss, the freakout. So,
oof.
But I remember hearing the freakout and being like, well, this is a Stay Tuned show. No, there's a second season of Real Rob. For real. The other is, I can't think of her name. Who's the girl that did the ukulele apology?
Miranda Sings.
Miranda Sings had that show where she plays her character.
Haters Back Off.
Haters Back Off, that's what it was. And it's the idea of taking cringe humor and making it a half hour is rough. And yet that ran 2 seasons.
I was actually thinking about how it's not a comment on the quality of the show, but how I was surprised that Squid Game got multiple seasons. Because whenever you have something that, centers around a murder game show, there's always some sort of flimsy excuse for why the protagonist has to get back into the murder game show, which I think Hunger Games is one of the few that's done in a way that made sense, but kind of having to create that excuse for why the protagonist has to be back in the Squid Game.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying there. As someone who loves murder game shows, as a genre, it's always annoying that, you're always watching the one where things go wrong and the protagonist destroys the game. But it's nice that, with Squid Games and, in a way, Hunger Games, you get at least 2 real experiences with the games.
Yeah, especially the Hunger Games. Something goes wrong, but not really until the very end.
Yeah, sometimes I want to experience a murder game show where it's not like a twist, I found a way to break the rules and I broke out of your prison, Puzzle Master. And I was just like, let's just see how the game works.
It's why we haven't watched it yet, but I had the thought of we might enjoy The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the Sunrise and the Reaping, because they're 2 earlier versions of the games where they're still figuring the games out. And I was like, Noah might enjoy this because it's focusing a little bit more on the game making and the gameplay.
I still haven't seen Mockingjay. I read and watched the first 2, and I don't know how it ends still. I assume that Katniss becomes the new owner of the Hunger Games.
Nobody tell him.
Yeah.
I've read it. I did not end up watching the movies. I was very against them splitting it into 2 movies. I find that to have been a very tiresome trope, although I'm endlessly amused by how it cost the Divergent series.
Yeah, that's a real good point.
Because the Divergent series did not end up making the last film. They wanted to do a TV series, and I think it was going to be on Freeform. It wasn't even going to be a prestige series. It was going to be on basic cable, and the entire cast went, no, we did not sign basic cable contracts. Get out of here.
Get out of there with this. I have one more that I can think of that I remember watching and being like, oh, this is garbage. This is going to get canceled immediately. It was on Comedy Central, and I remember being very excited for it because I was a big fan of Daniel Tosh. And I'm talking about the terrible cartoon known as Brickleberry.
Oh, that ran more than 1 season in the end?
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember there was...
We watched it live with the premiere.
Did we?
Yes. You and I did.
We didn't watch the full episode.
We didn't make it through the full episode. We watched the first... But we sat down with intention and watched the first 10 minutes.
Because we were excited for Brickleberry, because I was a big Daniel Tosh fan. And there's a lot of other, good names in it. The Sweet D from Always Sunny was a character. And the first, minute is just an animal orgy. And I was like, oh. Ugh.
Really working that Dana Carvey show opening act.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it.
Just alienating as many people as possible at the very beginning.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is getting canceled. Because there's so many, cartoons that went to Comedy Central that, ran 6 episodes and then were gone forever. Your Kid Notorious and whatever the Ben Show was. There was a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
At Comedy Central. And I was just like, okay, Brickleberry's another one of them. It ran 2 seasons.
That's wild.
Yeah. So those are all the examples that I was able to come up with. Actually, I have 2 more, but...
Yeah, those are most of the ones I could think of. I was thinking really of those categories of ones that we can retroactively say, that shouldn't have gotten a second season. The first season was so good and everything after that was bad. And that's just what we know from having seen. I mean, there are shows we've covered on Stay Doomed that could have gotten a second season that we would be going like, this shouldn't have gotten a second season. The second season was garbage. Same kind of idea.
Well, retrospectively, there are also two shows that, if you look at their first season, probably shouldn't have gotten a second. And that is Parks and Rec and The Office.
That's fair, because The Office really is a note-for-note remake of The British Office with all of its quirks and unlikableness. And Parks and Rec does not figure it. I would argue Parks and Rec doesn't totally get it until season 3 when Ben and Chris are introduced.
Well, it seems to me like... Well, Ben and Chris are middle of season 2, aren't they?
I believe they're middle of season 3.
Really? Are there 2 seasons with that guy? I thought he left in the middle of season 2.
When does Mark leave Parks and Rec? Yeah, so Mark Brendanawicz is at the end of the second season.
Okay.
So I'm trying to see if there's overlap between Ben. I just looked up, when is Ben's first appearance? I'm trying to see when his first appearance is The Master Plan, which is the second to last season. Or, excuse me, the second to last episode of season 2.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can see Parks and Rec. Ben and Chris show up at the very end of season 2, right about when Mark leaves.
Yeah, so if you look at them, like, they both kind of make the same mistake in that the main character is pretty unlikable. Like, if you go back to hair slicked back Michael, he is a D-bag. He's selfish and he's, like, rude. And if you go back to, like, season 1 Leslie, she's kind of full of herself.
And she's sort of incompetent.
Yeah, because, like, there's a whole episode about how, like, she gets popular at a gay club, so she wants to, like, remain queen, which is so not Leslie. Not the Leslie Knope that we know.
Right, and that incompetence is so in the face of... You see that competence in Leslie Knope building across season 3, and they really nail it with the episode The Flu.
Yes, where she somehow, like, frug states her way through an interview.
Yeah, she makes it through this presentation, and Ben Wyatt is in just utter awe of how competent she is and how passionate she is. And that's what we've been building to the entirety of season 3 for Leslie. I thought of another one that shouldn't have gotten a season 2, but did for a weird reason.
Okay.
Dollhouse.
Oh, Dollhouse is a good shout, yeah, because Fox didn't dare cancel another Joss Whedon.
Yeah, they didn't want to cancel another Joss Whedon project right as soon as it was started, because they were still in the aftermath of the blowback from Firefly. So they kept Dollhouse around for a second season, even though, by all accounts, Dollhouse just wasn't as good.
Yeah, it just was not working.
So, I think those are the ones I have.
Yeah, those are the ones that came to mind. What do you think? What were some things that you can't believe ran more than one season that you thought we would end up covering here on Stay Doomed? Leave those in the comments down below. And also, where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomshow@gmail.com or on Blue Sky at Stay Doomed.
And if you can't believe that they made another season of the Joe Smo Show, I'm at TV's Noah on Instagram and on Blue Sky.
If you know where I can find, like, good quality copies of Muppets Tonight either season, I'm Laura Crane on Blue Sky. Until next time, stay doomed.